Hey, I'm Mara. Just wanted to do a quick intro video for people who are new to our protection group and share a little bit about how it works and what to expect. It is different than anything you might know about obedience training, where obedience training is trying to build a lot of focus and calmness and duration in a dog. In protection training, we're trying to create explosiveness and a lot of emotion and speed and athleticism. So it looks very different than obedience training. When you are starting with protection training, it often doesn't look anything like protection training, and sessions are always very short, but especially in the beginning, they're very short because we're trying to build up the dog rather than having a session go on long enough that they start to settle down. It's very short and punchy so that the dog has a quick lesson, a quick takeaway, and then they're taken away before they feel like they're finished so that next time they come back saying, I want more of that. So sessions are typically 5-10 minutes long within protection training, and there's more discussion beforehand on what you're working on and what you want to do within that session to make it quick and punchy for the dog. So in the beginning, it looks a lot like playing with the dog, especially if your dog has some prey drive, some interest in toys and tug. That's typically what it looks like in the beginning. We're tapping into prey drive where your dog might be back tied. They're attached to a big wide collar or a body harness. We'll back tie them to a tree or have you hold the leash while the decoy is playing with the dog. There's a toy like a rag or a tug that's on the end of a pole or even attached to a leash so the decoy can fling it around and let the dog start to chase. That's what we might do for a dog that's maybe not super comfortable with the person being up playing tug with them, or to get them more interested if they're distracted by the environment, just having it mimic a prey animal around them and trying to get them into the game. But as they do start to play the game, then there's a slow progression into that being a person and not a toy. So we might go from a rag that's at the end of a leash that we're playing around with, like a cat teaser, into a bigger tug that's on the end of a leash or a flirt pole. Then it might be the person holding the tug and playing with the dog, and it might progress then to the tug being a sleeve that can be put onto an arm. And as the dog is starting to learn what the game is in pieces, eventually they end up doing those same movements on an actual bite suit, and that's where they're taught to target either a bicep or legs. So for most dogs, it's coming from prey drive. This is not coming out of aggression towards humans. This is the dog understanding that this is a game, that the game is a lot of us trying to get them off of the tug, but they win in the end, and they hold on tighter, they bite deeper, and they get to win the toy. So you could think of it like a kid in karate class where it's not a real fight for the dog. It is kind of like a friendly situation where there is no real threat and we're going through the motions, like a kid in a headlock saying, okay, if somebody puts you in a headlock, how do you respond? And going through the motions so that they gain confidence in it. That actually means that you bite harder and you push in deeper, and then you win and you win the game. Or putting them up against something if they feel restricted, teaching them, don't stop playing the game, it's okay, just push your body through to the other side and you win the tug. So that's how it starts. And then some dogs are more defensive. They might not have a lot of prey drive, but they're naturally very defensive. They're aware of threats. They're going to respond with aggression. And sometimes we can tap into that where we can take a bit of a different path and teach them that it's okay to respond that way to threats, and along the way teaching them some of the same motions. But obviously, if you have a dog that is a house pet and they're defensive, you might not want to go down that path because you are teaching them how to be truly aggressive towards people. So more often what it looks like is a dog that is confident and likes people playing as a game, and then as they mature and they get really good at the game, then we can start to tap a little bit into some defensive drive, where now the decoy is being a bit more sketchy, they're being a little bit more threatening, and the dog can use everything that they've learned to win the situation, but they should still be thinking clearly and having a really good time the whole time. This should be the best part of the dog's day, of their week, of their month. They should love this. So from there, we also build in obedience, so you have control over it. The training goes on commands. You'll probably have a command that means bark and lunge and look really nasty, but you're holding them back on a leash. And then a command that means bite this person. So we add in things like heel and down and out to let go of somebody and don't rebite them, so that you can start going into true personal protection scenarios where it will be things like you are in your car looking at your phone, somebody knocks on the window, says, I have a gun, open up, and they're going to open up your car door by force, and your dog needs to bite them and come out, and you know that the decoy is going to fire off 2 blanks and they're going to yell no at your dog. And so you're starting to shape scenarios like that. Or even ones where it's not an attack straight away, but maybe you're walking with your dog, somebody walks up and says, hey, could you help me with directions to this place? Your dog needs to hold a sit or a down or be healing while this is happening because there is no threat, and then the person will attack you and you need to give your dog the command to bite them. So that's where we really start putting it together. And the timeline on that is extremely different for different dogs. This is very heavily based on genetics. So that's why if you're new, we start with an evaluation before a full working spot to see if it's something your dog will do. But amongst the dogs who do enjoy this, there is a spectrum where some of them are maybe not naturals, but they really like it. This is something that becomes your new hobby with your dog. And then other dogs, you can choose how far you want to go with it. You can just do some bite work and put it on command, and if your dog is fantastic, they really get it and they naturally understand these things, then you can get your command to bite somebody pretty quickly. But most people still turn it into a hobby because the training goes on. You can get fancier and fancier and fancier and fancier with it. So for those who really end up taking to it, who have a talented dog and they're a committed handler, we have a registered PSA club. PSA is the Protection Sports Association. It's a competitive bite sports sport where there's 2-day trials or competitions. First day or first section is obedience, where you have an increasingly complicated and difficult obedience routine. You have to have a lot of control over your dog around things that your dog wants to bite and play with, food refusals, things like that. And competition obedience, like a focused heel or down in motion and those kind of things. If you pass your obedience test, then you're tested in multiple bite scenarios, like a carjacking or an attack on handler or a mugging, things like that. And when you pass that test multiple times with your dog, then you get official titles, and we compete as a team. So our PSA club meets for the workshop every month. It's a 2-day workshop, first weekend of every month. And then we meet once a week in addition to practice obedience and protection scenarios. So that's something that is available if you start coming to workshops, you're starting to make some progress with your dog, and it's something that you want to take up with your dog long term. But as far as coming to your first workshop, we will be at Attraction Canine Kennels. When you arrive, everybody will pull their cars inside and park. Leave your dog either in the car, recommended in a crate, or you can bring a crate inside the building and have them there. But dogs need to be on leash at all times. They can't approach people or other dogs, even if they are on leash. And for the most part, we're going to have one dog out at a time so that we can be focused on training them. So when you arrive, we'll have a whiteboard with the dog's names. That's the order that we're training in. It does move pretty quick. Sessions are short. So when your dog is coming up on the list, you want to have them ready, have their collar or their harness on, you be ready to go, so that you don't take 5 minutes to get your dog ready once it's their time. Upon arrival or before your session, you can discuss with the decoy what you want to do with your dog, where you're at, your experience, your goals. You'll do the session. It is going to move quick, so there's going to be another dog right after you. You might not have time to talk with the decoy right afterwards. But at noon, we break for lunch, which is your time to go and ask questions of the decoy and the other more experienced people that you see there. We'll all watch each other's dogs, so you can ask questions of anyone. Anyone's going to be happy to talk to you. And then if you are brand new, then we'll have you start with an evaluation after lunch just to see what your dog does so that we can have that lunchtime to talk first in a little bit more depth. If your dog does well, you can continue with the full weekend and go ahead and do 4 protection sessions. There's an obedience session each day as well. That's more casual. It's not necessarily where you're going to have a full private lesson during that time, but it's just to get your dog out and not only do bite work at workshops, but to practice control and obedience as well. And again, you can ask for help from any of the experienced members while you're there if you do want some input on your obedience training. There's a photographer typically there who takes some photo and video, and then we'll send that out afterwards so you have cool photos of your dog being angry. And afterwards on Saturday, we always go out for dinner and drinks, and that's another time just to talk in depth about your dog if you have more questions. So if it is your first time coming out to the group, then you RSVP by emailing me. It's mara@tractiondtc.com. And just include your name, your dog's name, age, and breed, what your obedience and protection goals are, and when you'll be attending. You can either attend both days, which is encouraged, or if you can only make one day, then we can do that. And you don't need to stay the whole time. If you can only make part of the time, then let us know, and we'll plan to work your dog when you're available instead of having you in the full all-day rotation. So let us know if you have questions, and we'll see you out there.
Shawty want signs with 10 on my side and 10 on my side of Libra. Let it come round, don't talk like that, don't come right back, they reaching. I forget where the kid came from, but I guess they did amnesia. Hard to tell when I'm making this shit look. Shawty want signs with 10 on my side and 10 on my side of Libra. Let it come round, don't talk like that, don't come right back, they reaching. I forget where the kid came from, but I guess they did amnesia. Hard to tell when I'm making this shit look. 15 racks in my safe, 15 racks in my bank. Long as my circle tight, long as my circle paid. If she gon' make my man, if she gon' make my man, I need my Beyonce. Gotta stay tough, gotta stay tough, Then I'm a bug and call, then I'm a bug and call. Down when it get like that, I'ma hold out to maybe. Even God when the horse no say, how you been good and working. Shawty wants